Hi, everybody. My name is Bill Troutman, and I am your math instructor. Just in case you didn't know, this is the week 2 live chat. This is for a Math1332, the week 2 live chat. What I like to do first is share my desktop. And just navigate through the course real quick. So here's our course. What I'd like you to do is click on modules. So everybody has already completed or should have completed the orientation module. Everybody should have logged into the homework already in week 2, in week 1. Taken this quiz in week 1. Done their math lab assignments for week 1, the chapter 1 review and chapter 1 algebraic expressions. We are now in week 2. So let's see what's required for week 2. Week 2, we're reading section 2.1, 2.2, and 2.3 in the book, pretty much how to solve for math, and then completing those assignments in Math World. And then we're going to take a week 2 quiz. So, by the way, there are 2 quizzes that we have to take. Don't forget, this is like a pop quiz, week 2 quiz, solve for X. Let's take a look at the actual homework when we go into the homework. I'm getting there. And I click on assignments in the homework. You should see all your homework assignments. There is section 2.1, 2.2, and 2.3. Work those 3 sections out. So everything else should have been done already. This is due on September 9th, which is this Sunday coming up. Okay, so let's get out of there. Go in the modules, and don't forget about this quiz that we have here, solving for X quiz. There's only 3 questions. You take those 3 questions, put the correct answer in. It's just a quick quiz just to make sure we understand everything that we're doing. You know, I mean, some of the basic, very basic little stuff for the quiz. So your homework access is here. The quiz must be done by Sunday. So let's cover now. Let me actually cover what we're going to do. I need to stop that. There we go. All right, so I'm back, and I'm going to cover some practice problems in 2.1, 2.2, and 2.3. Just give me a second here to get everything situated. All right, so, I guess I should have left the homework open also. Let me go back to the homework. Just take me a second. And so I'm going to cover just a couple problems from each section so you kind of understand what we're doing here. This is solving for X. So 2.1. Solving for X. I have this on the wrong page here. Actually, it's kind of cool that I can bring it over there. Basic solving for X for 2.1 looks like this. If I have X plus 2 equals 6, if I have X minus 2 equals 6, I want to solve for x. And by the way, let's do two more. 2x equals 6. And what else can I do? 1/2 x equals 6. Or this can also be, by the way, this can also be written x over 2 equals 6. These both mean the same thing. So let's take a look at this first top one. When we solve for x means tell me what x equals. If you look at this problem up here, you could probably tell me what x equals. X equals 4. 4 plus 2 equals 6. But mathematically, this is how we do it. We try to take this 2 over to the other side. So x is by itself. Our goal is to find out what x equals. So to take 2 to the other side, we always do the opposite math. The opposite of adding 2 is subtracting 2. And whatever you do to one side, you do to the other. 2 minus 2 is 0. I'm left with x. On the right-hand side, 6 minus 2 is 4. So that's how we get x equals 4. We get x by itself. Same way with over here. I want to get x by itself. It's a minus 2. The opposite of subtracting 2 is adding 2. Whatever you do to one side of the equal sign, you do to the other side of the equal sign. A negative 2 and a positive 2 turn to 0. 6 plus 2 is 8. Do you see if I plug this back in, 8 minus 2 does equal 6. Okay, the bottom 2 now. This is 2 times x equals 6. 2x equals 6 is 2 times x. Well, I need to get rid of the 2 to the other side. What is the 2 doing to the x? It's multiplying. The opposite of multiply is divide. So I divide both sides by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1x. Another way of writing 1x is just x. There's an invisible 1 in front of it. 6 divided by 2, don't forget we're dividing. 6 divided by 2 is 3, and that's my answer. You see, in the original problem, 2 times 3 does equal 6. Now, in this problem, 1/2 x is the same thing. You multiply the tops, and I get 1 times x is x. Multiply the bottoms, 2 times 1 is 2. You see, that's how 1/2 x equals 6 equals x over 2 plus equals 6. So what I need to do, I need to get rid of this 2. What is it doing to the x? It's dividing. The opposite of dividing by 2 is multiplying both sides by 2. 2 on top and a 2 on the bottom cancel, and I'm left with x equals 6 times 2 is 12. Once again, in the original problem, 1/2 times 12. 1/2 times 12. Half of 12 is 6. 6 does equal 6. So this is pretty much section 2.1 and 2.2. That's it. So let's try a couple of the problems from section, from the homework in 2.1. So this is the first problem. Z plus 5 equals negative 17. Well, my goal is to get the 5 on the other side and get the z by itself. The plus 5, what's the plus 5 doing? It's adding, so I'm going to do the opposite of adding 5. I'm going to subtract 5. Subtract 5, whatever you do to one side, you must do to the other, and I get z equals negative 17 minus 5 is a negative 22. And there's my answer. I'm looking for a calculator. Oh, here we go. Now, if you haven't done this yet, you should get a TI-30X calculator for our class. You can pick one of these up in the math office. They'll loan them to you for the entire semester. Then you turn them back in at the end of the semester. You can actually, if you're having problems with the work from last week, excuse me, you can have the calculator do all the work. If you're not sure about negative 17 minus 5, you can type it in. Now, when we do it, talk about a negative, it's this button right here. This negative button is right here. This one. This is the subtraction button. Hard to do it backwards. This is the subtraction button. So negative 17 minus subtract 5 on the calculator equals negative 22. So, I mean, if you're not sure about sign numbers and all that, use a calculator to do the math. So that was problem 1 on 2.2. There are 11 problems. I'm going to fast forward to, here goes another problem. This is problem 3. It says negative 9 plus x equals negative 21. So the question is, what is the negative 9 doing to this side? You see it's a negative 9. The opposite is a positive 9. So I'm going to add 9 to both sides. Add 9 to both sides. Negative 9 and a positive 9 turn into 0. I'm left with x equals a negative 21 plus 9. That's what that is. So on my calculator, if you're not sure what that is, negative 21 plus 9, and I'm using the negative button when I hit negative, not subtract. Negative 21 plus 9 on my calculator says x equals a negative 12. Okay. I'm still moving. Okay. Oh, we're in trouble now. We have fractions. That's okay. I mean, last week I showed you how to do all fractions. However, you can do them on a calculator. It's okay with me. Our tests are multiple choice, so you should be okay. X plus 3/8 equals a negative 1/4. This is the problem. I need to get the 3/8 to the other side. It's a plus 3/8, so I'm going to minus 3/8, minus 3/8. Plus 3/8 and a minus 3/8 equals 0. Now, over on this side, I have a minus 1/4 and a minus 3/8. So on my calculator, I'm going to do a negative 1 divided by 4. 1/4 is, by the way, this is a fraction. It also means divide. Now, there is a fraction button on your calculator. If you look here, right, this numerator, denominator, this fraction button, watch me. I'm going to hit 1 ND4. I hit the 1 and the ND4 and hit enter. And it just left 1/4 in there as the answer. So I've got to do a negative 1/4, negative 1 ND4. Then I'm going to do, that's a negative. The first one is a negative because there's no number in front. So this is the little negative symbol on your calculator. Sorry, the little negative symbol on your calculator. This is a subtraction symbol on your calculator because there's a number in front of it. Negative 1 ND4 minus 3 ND8. And that's what it looked like when I typed it in. And then I hit enter. And it gives me the answer. Did I type? Yeah. The answer is negative 5/8. X equals negative 5/8. So if you're not familiar with fractions, use your calculator. By the way, the long way of doing this is changing this to an 8. You multiply by 2, and you get negative 2/8 minus 3/8. You combine the tops, and I get negative 5. The bottom does not change. So you can use the long way, or you can use a calculator. It's fine with me. Okay, so that's 2.1. Let me go do a couple more. They have some let's do a quick decimal one. I mean, decimal's nothing hard. Once again, if you're not familiar, use a calculator. Plus x equals 8.1. This is all section 2.1. I need to get x by itself. I need to take the 1.4 to the other side. This is a positive 1.4. To take it to the other side, I just do the opposite of plus 1.4. I subtract 1.4. So I get x equals 8.1 minus 1.4 on my calculator. 8.1 minus 1.4, I get a positive 6.7. All right. That was problem 6. I'm moving. All these are the same. Problem 9 is a little bit more difficult. If I can get there, new page. So this is problem 9. It has 5y plus 1 equals 4y minus 4. Here I have y's on both sides. So the first rule in this particular case, by the way, I'm going to set up all the rules later on, but here you want to get the y's by themselves. So I want to take all the y's to one side. I'm going to take this 4y to the other side. This is a plus 4y, a positive 4y. The only way to take it to the other side is minusing 4y to both sides. Plus and a minus cancel. I'm left with a negative 4 here, a plus 1 here, and 5y minus 4y. 5 minus 4 is a 1y. Now, another way of writing 1y is just y. That 1 is invisible. Now, my goal, now that I have y's on one side, now we do the add and subtract. Now I got to get rid of that plus 1. I need to get the y by itself. So I need to take this to the other side. By doing the opposite of plus 1, I'm going to minus 1. And I get y equals a negative 4 minus 1 is a negative 5. Okay, and one last problem. So I think I'll be able to, on this section, I think I'll be able to write the steps that we need to write down. First, we're going to distribute if we have to. Then we're going to get the y's to one side. So we're going to write down these steps. Distribute, get the y's to one side. Next, we're going to add and subtract numbers. And then we're going to multiply and divide numbers. So these are our steps for solving for x for now. We might have some fractions or something we're going to do later, but these are the steps for solving. Here's the last problem on 2.1. So this is the last problem. So we're going to try to use all the steps that we can. First step is distribute. This is distribute. If we have a number outside of a parentheses multiplying, gee, there's an invisible multiply here. You have to multiply it times each term in that parentheses. 5 times x is 5x. 5 times a negative 3 is a negative 15. Then I bring down the 6, this 6x, and this 2. So I got everything on one side. I distributed first. Now I want to get all the y's to one side. And it's important when we say get all the y's to one side, try to make y's positive, or all the x's to one side. Try to make it all positive. So this is, so I want to take this to the other side. It's a positive 5. I said y's, but they're x's. It's a positive 5x, so take it to the other side by subtracting 5x. 6x minus 5x is 1x. Another way of writing 1x is just x. Bring down this plus 2. A negative 15 and a plus 6 is a negative 11. You can try that on your calculator. Oh, it's negative 9. Try that on your calculator if you need to. Negative 15 plus 6 is a negative 9. The only thing left, I'm getting x by itself, is get rid of the 2. I need the 2 to this side, so I'm going to subtract 2, and I get x equals negative 9 minus 2 on my calculator is a negative 11. And that is section 2.1. So let me look at 2.2 now real quick. If I can get there. And there are 14 problems in this section. So here's section 2.2 now. And I'm just looking at the first problem. It says x over 6 equals 8. So I need to get the 6 to the other side. What is the 6 doing to the x? It's dividing. X divided by 6. The only way, the opposite of dividing by 6 is multiplying by 6. So I multiply this side by 6, and I multiply this side by 6. 6 on top and 6 on the bottom cancel. 8 times 6 is 48. And there's my answer. Do you see in the original problem, 48 divided by 6 does equal 8 over here. That's in the original problem. If you plug it back in, you should get a true statement. Still going. Here's problem 3. Problem 3, 4x equals 16. I need to take the 4 to the other side. What's the 4 doing to the x? It's multiplying. The opposite of multiply, is divide. So I'm going to divide both sides. I want to get the 4 to the other side, so I'm going to divide by 4. 4 divided by 4 is 1 with an x. 1x, another way of writing 1x is just x. Here, oh, by the way, this was 16 and not 6. 16 divided by 4 equals 4. And there's my answer. All righty. Do more problems. Oh, this is a good one here. This is something I don't think we did. 8 ninths x equals 48. Okay, so if you have a fraction times an x, you're going to do the opposite. You're still going to do the opposite. Do you see, what is this 9 doing to the x? It's dividing. So the opposite, dividing by x, is multiplying by x. The opposite of dividing by 9 is multiplying by 9. I'm going to multiply this side by 9. I'm going to multiply this side by 9. What's this 8 doing to the x? It's multiplying. The opposite of multiplying by 8 is dividing by 8. And dividing by 8. Another way that people look at this, if you have a fraction, just multiply both sides by the reciprocal. Look, the 9's cancel, the 8's cancel, and you're left with 1x, or just x. Here, I'm going to plug this into my calculator. 48 times 9 over 8. So you can do this manually, but I just want to make sure you know. 48 divided by 9nd8 on my calculator. I don't think I did it right. I didn't get the correct answer. Did I type something in wrong? Oh, I I did. I typed in the wrong thing. It's 48 times 9ND8. I said divide. Because I know the answer. It's not a fraction. So 48 times on your calculator, I type in 9 and then the ND button, 8. So I type in 48 times 9ND8. It looks like this. And the answer is 54. In other words, 8 goes into 48 6 times, and 6 times 9 is 54. There's our answer. Don't forget, you're supposed to be reading the book and watching the videos. There's a lot of work you should be doing. The students get 3 to 4 hours of instruction a week. They go in the tutoring labs here on campus. And then they do the homework, and the homework should be taking them about 8 or 9 hours a week. So you should be spending, close to 20 hours a week just on this online course. If you think you're going to get through the course with 3 or 4 hours a week, I recommend withdrawing before the drop date. This course should be some serious work here. Every semester, close to half of the students fail because they don't keep up with the work. Keep up with the work. Don't fall behind. So this is problem 8. I'm still on 2.2. I'm going to do number 8. It looks like this. This is negative x equals 40. My goal is to find out what x equals, not negative x. Remember, negative x or x just means there's an invisible 1 in front of here. So there's an invisible 1 times x. The only way to get rid of this is divide by negative 1. Negative 1 divided by negative 1 is a positive 1x. On my calculator, a positive 40 divided by a negative 1 is a negative 40. And that's my answer. Okay, let's see what else I have here. Oh, here we go. New page. 2x plus 6 equals 20. So this is really important that you have the steps written down from before. There's 2 things I need to get to the other side. I need to get the 6 to the other side and the 2. My goal is to find out what x equals. The 6 is adding to this x. The 2 is multiplying. Let me go back to whatever page it was and see the rules. Here's the rules. Look really close. You take the adding and subtracting to the other side before anything that's being multiplied and divided. It's opposite of the order of operations. So I'm going to take the adding to the other side first. Here, this add 6, the opposite of adding 6 is subtracting 6. So that's what I do. I take the 6 before the 2. So I take this first. Subtract 6, subtract 6. And I'm left with 2x equals 20 minus 6 is 14. Now I'm going to divide both sides by 2. Divide by 2, divide by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1x, and 14 divided by 2 is 7. So remember the rule. It tells you what to do first. Oh, we've got some more. We got some more. Let's do. Okay, here we go. Let me change my color. 2z equals negative 4z minus 12. Well, if we go back to our rules, very important. It says distribute. Well, in the problem we did, there was no distribute. Next, Get the y's to one side. So I want to get the y's to one side. In other words, the z's to one side. So I want to take all the z's to this side. It's a minus 4z. The opposite of minus 4 is plus 4. So I'm going to plus 4z plus 4z here. Minus 4 and a plus 4 turn to 0. On this side, I got 6z. 2z plus 4z is 6z and a negative 12. So now I got all the z's to one side. Just get the 6 to the other side. It's multiplying, so we divide both sides. If it's multiplying, you have to do the opposite, divide. 6 divided by 6 is 1z. Another way of writing 1z is just z. Negative 2, 12 divided by 6 is a negative 2. Try that on your calculator. You should get a negative 2. And that is the end of section 2.2. Okay, I'm going to try the last section now. 2.3. So this section 2.3 is like a combination of everything. So this is 6x minus 3x plus 1 equals 8. So this is 2.3, and I'm on problem 3. So I'm going through that list that we wrote down. I hope you wrote it down. It tells you what to do first. So first it says distribute. We have a distribute. A negative in front of a parentheses is like saying there's an invisible negative 1. So it's negative 1 times. So I have to distribute that negative 1. Negative 1 times 3x is a negative 3x. Negative 1 times a positive 1 is a negative 1. Do you see when you distribute, the parentheses disappear? So next it said get all x's on one side of the equal sign. They are, but I could combine these two. They are on one side. 6x minus 3x. There's nothing I have to do except combine them. 6x minus 3x is 3x. Okay, so we're at this point now. Now I need to get the 3 to the other side and the 1 to the other side. You have to ask yourself, what's the 3 doing? Multiplying. What's the 1 doing? Subtracting. If we go back to our list, you do the add and subtract first before the multiply and divide when you're solving for x. So you do the add and subtract first. So I got to do that subtract first. It's a minus 1. The opposite of minus 1 is plus 1. I'm left with 3x equals 8 plus 1 is 9. Now it's 3 times x, so I'm going to divide by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1x. 9 divided by 3 is 3. Another way of writing 1x is just x. And there's my answer. Okay, so this one looks a little crazy, but we're going to try it. By the way, don't forget, in the homework, you can click on question help. And like for this particular problem, it says view an example. There's an animation. Take a look at that animation. I don't see anything on mine. I don't think I have it set up. They have videos. Some of them have videos. There's the textbook. Help me solve. Try all of these helps to get you through the problems if you're having a problem. getting to the answer. So here is the problem. This is problem 5. This is a doozy of a problem. It's hard enough for me to just write it down. Okay, so if we go back through our list of solving, step 1, distribute. So any number in front of a parentheses needs to get multiplied to each term. In other words, I have to multiply 6 times 4 is 24 with an x. 6 times a negative 7 is negative 42. Then I bring down this. Here I'm going to distribute also 6 times x is 6x. 6 times a negative 2 is a negative 12. And 58. So I distributed first. Now I want to get the x's to one side. I like to keep my x's positive, so I'm going to take this 6x to the other side. It's a positive 6x. So I am going to subtract 6x. The opposite of plus 6x is a minus 6x. That turns to 0. 24 minus 6 is 18x. Okay, so we have all the x's. Here's the x's on one side. Put this in your calculator and combine these two. Negative 42 minus 2 is a negative 44. And these two on your calculator, negative 12 plus 58 is a positive 46. Okay, so you can always combine like terms on each side. You can't cross them or combine them with something on the other side. You have to send them to the other side first. But if they're on the same side, you can add them together, the numbers. So I need to get rid of the minus 44 and I need to get rid of the 18. The 18 is multiplied times the x. This is subtracting. Always get the add and subtracting to the other side. It's a minus 44. So we're going to plus 44. This turns to 0. I'm left with 18x equals 90. 46 plus 44 is 90. Divide both sides is 18 times x. So I'm going to divide by 18, divide by 18. 18 divided by 18 is x. 90 divided by 18 is 5. So there's my answer. That was question 5. A lot of these are pretty crazy. Okay, let's take a look at a problem like this. I don't have this in the steps, but I'm going to add a preliminary step. So here's x minus 5 over 6 minus 1 equals x minus 6 over 5. So those steps that we had, first step I'm going to say clear fraction by multiplying by the least common denominator, LCD. And then the regular steps, distribute x's to one side, add and subtract the x's, and then multiply and divide. So if you look at this 6 and 5, what number does 6 and 5 both go into? And it's 30. So I need to clear the fractions by multiplying 30 is my LCD. So I'm going to multiply this term by 30, this term by 30, and this term by 30. Do you see? Each term by 30. 6 goes into 30 5 times. So I'm left with a 5 on the outside. The 6 canceled with the 30. This is an x minus 5. Here, 30 Negative 1 times 30 is negative 30. 5 goes into 30 6 times, so I'm left with, I'm going to put the 6 in front. It's probably easier. 6 times x minus 6. These 5 canceled with that 30. So this is what I'm left with. I just put the 6 in front. It doesn't matter where it's front or back. Now we're going to distribute. We cleared the fractions. Now we distribute. I get 5x minus 25 minus 30. And on this side, I'm going to distribute 6x minus 36. Okay, now I want x's on one side, everything else to the other. See, get the x's on one side. It doesn't matter. I like to keep the x's positive. So I want to take this 5x to the other side here. It's a 5x, so I'm going to minus 5x. 5x minus 5x is 0. I'm left with 25. Or is it? Oh, it's a minus 25. Minus 30 equals 6x minus 5x is 1x. Another way of writing 1x is just x. And the last thing I need to do is, well, there's actually 2 steps we can do here. Wait, combine those. Negative 25 minus 30 on my calculator says negative 55. So I just need to take this minus 36 to the other side. Then I have x by itself. I'm going to add 36. The opposite of minus 36 is add 36. And this is what I'm left with. Negative 55 plus 36 on my calculator gives me a negative 19. And it doesn't matter which side x is on. It still says x equals negative 19. Just know that if you have a y or an x, there's an invisible 1 in front of it. Okay, so there's 2 special cases for solving for x. And I'm just going to write special. Be careful. Be careful. Here's an example. 9x minus 9 equals 9 times x plus 8. So going through the steps for solving, step number 1, distribute. So here's the distribute that I'm going to do. 9 times x is 9x. 9 times 8 is 72. The next step is get all the 9's to one side. So let me take this 9 to the other side. It's a plus 9, so I'm going to minus 9 to both sides. 9x minus 9x is 0, and I get 72 on the right-hand side. 9x minus 9x is 0 there. I get negative 9. If the x's cancel out, like they did here, there's no x's left. 9x minus 9x is 0. If they cancel out and you get a true statement, then the answer is all real numbers. If you get a false statement, then equation has no solution. So the question is this. Negative 9 equals 72. Is this true or false? Negative 9 equals negative 9. It does not equal 72. So this is a false statement. False statement, so I would then click on the button that says no solution. If the x's cancel and you get a false statement, then there is no solution. So let's go to the next example where it'd probably be a true statement. I'm going to try to find one. Let's see. Here we go. This is a little crazy. 0.06 x plus 7 equals 0.032 x plus 9 plus 0.15. So first we distribute. 0.06 times x is 0.06x. 0.06 times 7, try that on your calculator. 0.06 times 7, you get 0.42. Here, I multiply that, I get 0.06x. Multiply this, I get 0.27, and then I have this plus 0.15. Let's take the x's to one side. I'm going to minus 0.06x minus 0.06x, and do you see how they cancel? I get 0.42 on this side, and I have to add those together, and I get 0.42. This is a true statement. For a true statement, the answer is all real solutions. There are many answers. Remember, if it was a false statement, here, true, all real solutions. If it's false, there is no solution. And that is section 1.2, 2.1, 2.2, and 2.3 in a nutshell there. Let me know if you have any questions. You should be working on your stuff, on your homework, several times a week. Don't wait until Sunday. Take tests and quizzes when they're assigned. I don't allow latent tests and quizzes. I will allow one makeup at the end of the semester. Call me if you have any questions.